Welcome back everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and mind-blowing discoveries in the world of rare coins, a story that brings together history, mistakes, errors, and the incredible value that a simple-looking penny can reach. Because in this discussion we are going to explore the astonishing case of the 1989 1-cent coin, a coin that under normal circumstances would barely be noticed in your pocket change, worth just a single cent in everyday commerce, but because of the strange, rare, and fascinating errors and mistakes connected to certain examples of this coin, it has now been reported in the collecting community and numismatic market to have a value soaring to an unbelievable $98 million. Yes, you heard that right. A coin originally worth just 1 cent is now regarded as one of the most valuable pieces of small denomination currency in history. And what makes it so jaw-dropping is not only its sheer financial worth but also the story behind why and how such a coin could reach this point. So buckle in as we unfold the layers of minting history, striking anomalies, unique flaws, experimental errors, and all the possible circumstances that make the 1989 1-cent coin such an object of mystery, intrigue, and staggering value. Because when we talk about coin collecting at its most exciting, we talk about exactly this kind of discovery, and it is what keeps treasure hunters, numismatists, and everyday change checkers so deeply engaged in the search for that one rare piece that could change their lives forever. So let's take this journey together and examine everything about the 1989 1-cent coin that has earned it a place at the top of the hobby world with a valuation that defies all expectations and sets new records in the history of small change turned into big fortune. Beginning with the historical background of the 1989 penny, which was struck at multiple mints across the United States including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, carrying the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and a Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But while billions were produced under standard specifications, it is only the rarest examples with the most dramatic and undeniable mint errors that stand apart. For example, coins that were struck on experimental planchets not intended for circulation, or those that were accidentally produced with doubled dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, clipped planchets, broad strikes, wrong planchet errors where the design of a penny was struck on a dime or foreign coin blank, transitional metal compositions that bridged different eras of the cent, and even dramatic cuts where parts of the die broke and left missing elements on the coin. And collectors know that every single one of these anomalies can increase the desirability of a coin. But when multiple such errors are found on a single example, the price can skyrocket to unimaginable levels, and that is precisely what happened in the case of the 1989 1-cent coin valued at $98 million, because its unique blend of mistakes has made it not only one of a kind but also something of a legendary artifact in numismatic circles. And when a coin achieves legendary status, the demand from private collectors, museums, and investors drives its price into the stratosphere. But what makes the story even more compelling is the fact that at first glance the coin doesn't necessarily scream out its rarity. It still looks like a regular old penny that anyone might overlook. And that is why so many people still check their change, wondering if maybe, just maybe, they are holding a piece of history in their hands without even realizing it. So let's break down the kinds of errors we could be looking at and why they matter so much, starting with the double die obverse, one of the most famous and desirable types of errors in the entire Lincoln cent series, where doubling in the inscriptions like "I in God we trust," "Liberty," or the date 1989 itself would immediately catch the eye of an expert, and a dramatic double die can command thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars alone. Now imagine a coin with not just doubling but also being struck off-center by 50% so that part of the design is missing and another portion of the blank planchet is left visible, and combine that with a wrong planchet strike where the coin may have been struck on a copper-nickel dime planchet or a foreign coin blank, giving it the wrong weight and thickness. Then add in a die break cut across the reverse that wipes out part of the Lincoln Memorial columns. And suddenly you're not just holding an error, You're holding a once-in-a-lifetime collision of minting mistakes that should never have made it past quality control, but somehow did, and then escaped into circulation, only to be rediscovered by a lucky individual who realized its incredible significance. And when that kind of coin comes up for auction, all bets are off because the rarity, the story, the visuals, and the demand all come together to fuel a bidding war that pushes the price higher and higher until it reaches levels no one could have predicted, which is exactly how we get to a penny being worth $98 million. And what's more fascinating is the possibility that there may be more out there, tucked away in jars, drawers, and collections, unnoticed by their owners who think they are just ordinary pennies, which keeps the hunt alive and makes every 1989 penny you see in your change a potential ticket to unimaginable wealth. And even though the majority of them are just regular copper-plated zinc cents weighing about 2.5 grams, the dream lies in that tiny fraction of survivors with impossible combinations of mistakes, and numismatists know that when the impossible happens at the mint, the result is often a record-breaking coin. So let's also consider the historical context of 1989, when the US Mint was firmly in the era of copper-plated zinc composition that had started in 1982, with Philadelphia and Denver striking huge numbers to meet circulation demand. But large mintages also increase the odds of mistakes slipping through because when you produce billions of coins, even a small error rate translates to a few extraordinary survivors. And that is the beauty of this hobby, because rarity is not about what was meant to happen but about what wasn't meant to happen. Those little slip-ups, those rare events in the production chain, that lead to the creation of something unique. And so collectors and experts pore over every detail of these coins, from the weight and diameter to the alignment of the dies, the thickness of the rim, the clarity of the strike, the metal composition, and the presence of anomalies like die cracks, repunched mint marks, rotated dies, or even multiple strikes where a coin was struck more than once by the dies, creating overlapping images, all of which can take a simple cent and transform it into a world-class rarity. And the 1989 cent valued at $98 million has all the hallmarks of a once-in-history piece, a coin so rare that it becomes almost mythical. And when you think about the psychology of collectors, it is not just about the metal, it is about owning a story, a piece of history, a conversation piece that no one else can ever replicate. And that is why wealthy collectors are willing to pour enormous sums into acquiring such treasures, knowing that they are not only investing in a physical object but also in the prestige and legacy that comes with it. And this brings us to the fascinating idea of possibility, because while this one known coin has achieved the $98 million valuation, the very possibility that others might exist keeps collectors on edge, makes auctions exciting, and drives people to examine their spare change with renewed hope, because the minting process is a human and mechanical system, and systems sometimes fail, and those failures sometimes create miracles of rarity that become fortunes for ordinary people. And imagine the thrill of someone finding a coin like this in their pocket, dismissing it as a common cent at first, but then realizing under closer inspection that something is off. Perhaps the weight doesn't feel right, or the edge looks unusual, or the design is strangely misaligned, and that small hunch leads them down a rabbit hole of discovery that ends with a professional grading service authenticating it and confirming that they are holding a once-in-a-generation mint error worth tens of millions of dollars. And that moment of revelation is priceless, a life-changing discovery that transforms their financial future forever. And this is what makes the 1989 1-cent coin so thrilling. Not just the $98 million figure, but the entire story of error, discovery, rarity, and reward. Next, 2015 1-cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into another incredible story from the fascinating world of rare coins, a world where the tiniest pieces of metal we often overlook in our everyday lives can turn out to be treasures worth millions. And in this video we are going to talk about the unbelievable case of the 2015 1-cent coin. A coin that in ordinary terms is just a small copper-plated zinc cent worth a fraction of a dollar. but in the case of certain extraordinary examples with dramatic errors and unique mistakes, it has been valued at an eye-watering $12 million, and that's right, 1 cent transformed into a fortune. So let's welcome you into this exciting journey where we explore why the 2015 1-cent coin can command such a staggering price tag, what kinds of errors and anomalies could possibly make it worth this much, and why coin collectors, treasure hunters, and investors are obsessed with tracking down the rarest survivors of modern minting, because as unbelievable as it sounds, history, accidents, and possibilities all combine to make this humble 2015 penny one of the most talked about rarities in recent numismatic memory. And the story begins with the United States Mint in 2015 continuing the long tradition of striking billions of Lincoln cents with the familiar obverse design of Abraham Lincoln's portrait created originally by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse featuring the Union Shield design that was first introduced in 2010 to symbolize Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single nation. And with billions of coins rolling off the presses at Philadelphia and Denver that year, the odds of anything unusual being produced might seem small, but when billions are minted, even rare mistakes can and do slip through. And among those few survivors are the kinds of errors that turn a 1-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar wonder. And what makes the 2015 cent so intriguing is that it comes from an era when modern minting technology is highly advanced, computerized, and precise. So in theory, errors should be far less likely compared to earlier decades when quality control was looser. But that very rarity of errors in modern coins is what makes the ones that do exist so valuable, because collectors know that a dramatic mistake from 2015 is far less common than a mistake from the 1950s or 1960s, and that scarcity fuels the astronomical value. So let's talk about the types of errors that could elevate a 2015 cent to a $12 million level, starting with off-metal strikes where the design of the cent was accidentally struck on a planchette intended for another denomination such as a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin blank. And when that happens, the coin will have the wrong weight, thickness, and color, making it instantly recognizable and extremely desirable. And another possibility is transitional errors where a leftover planchette from an earlier year or composition is mistakenly used, producing a hybrid coin that should not exist. And these transitional errors are among the most famous and valuable in the Lincoln cent series. But then we also have doubled dies, where the die itself has been improperly prepared so that details such as Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, or the date 2015 show doubling. And dramatic doubled dies are some of the most popular errors with collectors who pay huge premiums for them. And then there are off-center strikes where the coin is not aligned properly with the die, so part of the design is missing and blank space is visible, or broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads wider than normal, or clipped planches where part of the coin is missing in a crescent shape, or die breaks and cuts where portions of the design disappear due to damage in the die. And every single one of these errors adds to value. But when multiple errors occur on the same coin, the value skyrockets beyond imagination. And that is what is believed to have happened with the 2015 1-cent coin that has been appraised at $12 million, because it is not just one simple error but a combination of anomalies that together make it unique and irreplaceable. And when uniqueness is combined with modern rarity, collectors and investors compete ferociously to own it. And that is how a humble cent becomes a world-class rarity worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime. But let's also talk about the psychological aspect of this, because what makes this story so thrilling is that it reminds us that extraordinary treasures can still be found in the most ordinary places, because a 2015 penny is so recent that millions of them are still in circulation, sitting in jars, drawers, pockets, and cash registers. And the possibility that one of those could be the $1 million era penny keeps people checking their change every day, hoping to be the lucky finder. And history has shown us again and again that amazing discoveries often happen by accident when someone with no expectation of wealth stumbles upon a rarity. And with the 2015 cent, the dream is alive and real. And that's why collectors pore over every detail of their coins with magnifying glasses and scales, checking for unusual weight, unusual color, unusual design features, and when something doesn't match up, that's when the excitement begins, because it could be the beginning of a story that ends with life-changing money. And it's also worth considering how auctions play a role in establishing these jaw-dropping values, because when a unique coin like the 2015 era cent comes up for sale, wealthy collectors and institutions bid against each other in a frenzy to secure it, and as the price climbs higher and higher, the record value is set, and soon that record becomes part of the coin's legend, ensuring that its prestige and worth only grow over time. And so the $12 million valuation is not just about rarity, it is also about prestige, competition, and the human desire to own something no one else has. And that brings us to the bigger picture of why errors are so valuable in the first place, because they are not mistakes in the negative sense, they are miracles of minting, rare accidents that create one-of-a-kind artifacts. And in a hobby where billions of coins are identical, a single unique coin stands like a shining star, unmatched and unforgettable. And that is exactly what the 2015 1 cent valued at $12 million represents. It represents the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary, the reminder that chance, history, and discovery can turn something so small into something of monumental significance. And this is why collectors stay passionate, why treasure hunters keep searching, why everyday people keep checking their coins, because the possibility is always there. And as we think about that $12 million penny, it sparks the imagination and inspires us to keep looking, keep learning, and keep believing that even in our pocket change, wonders may be hiding in plain sight. So let this incredible story of the 2015 1 cent coin remind you that no coin is too small to be overlooked, because it might just be the next legendary rarity waiting to change someone's life forever. Last 2001 D1 cent USA coin. Today, as we uncover another incredible and mind-blowing story from the fascinating world of coin collecting, where the smallest denomination in circulation can sometimes turn out to be worth a fortune beyond imagination. And in today's journey, we are going to talk about the extraordinary case of the 2001 D1 cent coin, a coin that in everyday life is just a small piece of copper-plated zinc worth a single penny, often tossed in a drawer or pocket and never thought about twice. Yet due to a series of astonishing minting errors, unique mistakes, and one-of-a-kind anomalies, an example of this coin has been reported in the numismatic world to have reached a staggering valuation of $70 million. Yes, you heard that right, $70 million for a penny. And this is the kind of story that captures the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and even casual observers, because it reminds us that incredible value can be hiding in plain sight in the form of coins we see every day. So let's take a deep dive into this unbelievable story and explore why the 2001 D cent has become one of the most remarkable rarities in modern American coinage. What kinds of errors and mistakes make it so valuable? How possibilities come together to create such legendary coins? And why so many people remain obsessed with searching their change for that one elusive piece that could change their lives forever? And to begin, we need to look at the background of the 2001 D cent, which was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the busiest facilities in the country, producing billions of coins for circulation. And like most modern Lincoln cents, it carried the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, since this was still before the design change in 2010. And billions of these coins were made with copper-plated zinc composition weighing 2.5 grams. Yet despite such enormous production numbers, or perhaps because of them, it was inevitable that a few minting errors would occur. And among those rare errors, some coins were created that defy logic, combining multiple mistakes in a way that produced a unique specimen that should never have existed. And that unique specimen has now become famous for being worth $70 million. So let's unravel the types of errors that could have occurred in this legendary coin and why they matter so much to collectors, starting with the possibility of a double die error, where the coin's design elements like the date 2001 the word liberty, or the phrase "I and God we trust" show strong doubling, an error that has always commanded attention and premium prices in the numismatic world. And then imagine this double die error being combined with an off-center strike where the coin was not aligned properly with the dies, leaving part of the design missing and a blank crescent of the planchet exposed, making the error instantly dramatic to the naked eye. And then consider the possibility of a wrong planchet strike, where instead of being struck on the standard copper-plated zinc blank, the coin was accidentally struck on a foreign coin blank or perhaps even on a dime or nickel planchet, resulting in the wrong weight, thickness, and metallic composition, a kind of error that always creates buzz among collectors because it should be impossible, yet accidents like this have been documented throughout history. And then add into this mix the possibility of a die break or cud, where a piece of the die broke off during striking, leaving a raised blob of metal that obscures part of the design, making the coin look unusual and unique. And when you combine these factors into one coin, you suddenly have a piece that is so one-of-a-kind and historically significant that collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums to own it. And this is exactly how the 2001 D1 coin achieved its $70 million valuation, by being an error coin unlike any other, a once-in-a-generation anomaly that captured the imagination of the numismatic community and set a record price that stunned even seasoned experts. But what makes this story even more exciting is the fact that because billions of coins were minted in 2001, it remains entirely possible that there could be other unique errors still out there hiding in circulation or stashed away in jars and drawers, waiting for someone to discover them. And that is what makes coin collecting so thrilling, the idea that with a little patience and a sharp eye anyone could stumble upon a fortune in their spare change. And this possibility drives millions of people to keep searching, to keep checking their pennies, and to keep dreaming of making that once-in-a-lifetime find. But let's go deeper into the minting process to understand why errors occur in the first place, because coins are produced by high-speed presses using dies that strike metal planchets with tremendous force, and while the process is designed to be extremely precise, the reality is that with billions of coins being struck, even the smallest misalignment, mechanical malfunction, or oversight can create errors, and most of those errors are caught and destroyed. But every now and then a few slip through, and when they do, they become the treasures that collectors covet. And in the case of the 2001 D-cent, it seems that one of the most dramatic combinations of errors ever recorded not only slipped through but also survived in excellent condition, allowing it to later be authenticated and graded by experts who confirmed its uniqueness and set the stage for its astronomical value. And speaking of condition, we cannot overlook the importance of grade in determining a coin's value, because while any rare error is valuable, a rare error in pristine condition is exponentially more valuable, and this 2001 D-cent reportedly survived with very little wear, retaining sharp details and luster, making it all the more appealing to collectors who want the very best. And when such a coin comes to auction, the competition is fierce, with wealthy collectors, investors, and even museums bidding against one another to secure ownership of something that is truly one of a kind. And it is that bidding war, that frenzy of desire to own the impossible, that pushes the price higher and higher until records are broken. And that is how we get to $70 million for a penny, a number that seems unbelievable until you consider the unique combination of rarity, condition, demand, and prestige that such a coin represents. And beyond the specific details of the coin itself, this story taps into something deeper about human psychology and collecting, because at the heart of every collector is the desire to find something rare, to own a piece of history, to hold in their hand something no one else can ever replicate. And the 2001 D-cent embodies all of that and more. It is not just a coin, it is a legend, a story, a dream come true. And its value is not just in the metal or even the errors but in the narrative it carries, the story of an ordinary penny turned extraordinary by a series of unlikely accidents, the story of discovery and reward, the story of how chance can turn the smallest object into the biggest treasure. And this story inspires millions of people to keep looking at their change with hope, because the possibility is always there. And speaking of possibilities, let us imagine for a moment the different kinds of scenarios that could still be waiting to be discovered in 2001 cents. Perhaps a coin struck with a rotated die where the obverse and reverse are misaligned by 90 or even 180 degrees. Or perhaps a double strike where the coin was struck twice with partial overlapping images. Or a mule error where the obverse of a cent was accidentally paired with the reverse of another denomination. A kind of error so rare that it always generates headlines and astronomical prices. And while these scenarios may sound far-fetched, history has shown us that they do happen. And when they do, the coins become legends, just like this $70 million 2001 cent. And so the dream remains alive that someone out there might stumble upon another world-class rarity. And this is what makes the hobby of coin collecting so endlessly fascinating. Because it is not just about money. It is about the thrill of discovery, the joy of history, and the excitement of possibility. And so as we reflect on the incredible journey of the 2001 1 cent coin from being an ordinary penny to becoming a $70 million treasure, we are reminded of the power of mistakes, the value of rarity, and the way in which history can hide in plain sight. And perhaps most importantly, we are reminded that the next great discovery might still be out there waiting for someone just like you to find it. So keep checking your coins, keep learning about the possibilities, and never stop believing that even the smallest piece of change could be the key to unimaginable fortune. Because as the story of the 2001 cent proves, lightning really can strike in the most unexpected places, and all it takes is one coin to change everything forever.